welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is your host Kushalmehra. All right, my guest today needs no introduction. Raveena Tandon. Raveena, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Kushal. I'm so honored to be here. I follow you on Twitter and social media, and I enjoy reading all your tweets and hearing your podcast. So it's really a privilege to be here with you this evening.
Well, thanks a lot, Raveena. As you're in the middle of, as they say, a blitz tour of talking to so many people in the middle of just the release of this movie. And today's topic, as we're talking about this, is going to be women in Indian cinema. So I actually wanted to start with a little bit of a detour, and it's about the movie itself. Now, you obviously had two projects just recently come out. One was Aranyak, and the other one is KGF 2. Now, as someone who's an outsider, I'm a consumer of content. So, if in that sense, you're creating the content and I'm consuming it. So I always wanted to ask this question to anybody who's maybe in the creative process. So how do you as an artist change your mental makeup from one role to the other? That's something that has always fascinated me. And I always wanted to ask someone that.
Well, a lot of actors have different kind of methods. A lot of trained actors who've been on theatre, stage, done training, done courses, follow various different methods. For me, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know how I see it, I've actually not done any training for acting, not followed any kind of method. I do things spontaneously. I just put myself in the character's shoes as to what I would be or how I would react as being that character, not as being what I am, the way my life has been. But I put myself in the character's shoes and decide then how that character would react. Well, so far, I think it's kind of worked. So,
well, that's good. Now, so why I'll tell you is because in the two characters that you played, one was Kasturi and the other one is, of a politician. Now, the thing is, so the one where you're a cop and the other you're a politician. Now, these are two strong women, but the requirement, I guess, is a very different thing, right? So the mindset of a cop is very different than a mindset of, let's say, you're playing the prime minister there. So these are two different roles. So how do you like visualize it? Is I guess what I'm wondering.
So again, it was just not playing a cop. I mean, playing Kasturi Dogra was very, very different from what I am in real life as well. Kushal, a lot of actors are very happy playing themselves in every film that they do. Whether it's vivacious, bubbly, or however they see themselves as city born and bred girls coming from a city life, playing the eternal Sheher ki ladki always. I could have been very comfortable also playing those kind of characters because that would come so easily to me and I'd be so spontaneous. But to move away from what you are in real life and play someone in something completely different. For example, Kasturi Dogra was the sensibilities of a Pahari woman who's brought up, with nature in the raw, with the kind of, there's no diplomacy around her. There's no, line to be drawn, or this is what she can say, or this is what she won't say. So her sensibilities are completely different. The level of education that she's gone through, the kind of patriarchy that she's, going through within her workplace and at home. Much, much more different than what Ramika Sen was, where she actually locks horns with, patriarchy be damned, and she just locks horns, and she's the most powerful woman in the country. So it's these two are completely different characters that one would play. So for me, like I said, the success I think for any actor would be when people start calling you by your character's name. So when Aranyak released, all the photographers and all the people I'd meet, it's Kasturi Dogra, Kasturi, and now it is Ramika Sen ji, Ramika ji, they call me. And so it's I think it's pretty rewarding actually to see that your effort has paid off.
Yeah. So now let's get to the overall situation of women in cinema too. To my utter shock, I mean, I'm not a movie historian or anything of that sort. So while I was doing my research, I found out, okay, Raja Harishchandra was 1913, Dada Saheb Phalke, and this is the situation of our society. And and it actually made me happy and sad at the same time. Happy because today I'm talking to such an established woman and an artist. And I found out that in 1913, because of the state of the society, they could not find a woman to do the role of, I think it was Queen Taramati, yeah. And Anna Salunke had to do that role. So when you get hit by data like this as an individual artist yourself, how does that make you feel?
Well, I think it's. I still feel, as to whatever we say and however we say, I still do believe that India, our you call it Hindustan, you call it Bharat, whatever, was I believe our India was much more evolved than many other countries, even in the centuries, bygone centuries. Yes, maybe the women were not so forward enough to come and act, but right from our classical dancing to, if you actually see historically how classical dancing evolved over the years, and it was supposed to be an honor to be an artist in those days. Till we reached a point where, yes, maybe women didn't want to do theatre, and even Ram Leelas, men would be playing the role of Sita, and that's how it would be. But then you see that a lot of our women were also ruling, their different states. We had Maharanis of everywhere. They would be equal at par with men, whether it would be, on the battlefield, or it would be ruling their darbars. Whereas in England, women were not allowed to vote till the 19th century, the early 19th century. So, I mean, here, this is not really a comparison that we can make. But what I would say, yes, there definitely was an evolution. There definitely went about where women came into their own. And actually, you'd be surprised that initially, which probably doesn't even happen now, I think some of the most famous women were Nadia Hunterwali. Her movies used to be in the black and white era, where she'd be riding and wearing pants and sword fighting and being just exactly as what we women were, or have been historically, what Indian women have been. So yes, maybe there was a phase, but for me, it does not deter at all as to how proud I am of our female heritage.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because I was looking at the role of women in Indian cinema, trying to read a few papers, trying to understand how this evolution has happened. So it's very interesting. From the 50s onwards to the 70s and 80s, actually women have played a very significant role in a lot of characters in Indian cinema. There were women-based characters, and then something changes in the 80s, I guess. And now we're in a way going back to that, the 50s to 80s era of Indian cinema, where more and more women-based characters are coming out, more and more strong women being portrayed. And they basically, I mean, even in the two things that you've worked in, whether it's KGF 2 or Aranyak, so pretty much you're the central character. Everything in a way revolves around you. But another thing, now I have to ask you. So if you were to be asked, all right, in KGF 2, Ramika Sen, now, which shade is on the side? Like, the one thing I did not understand, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, I'm saying this in a positive way, is Ramika Sen the hero or the villain? Because you can't make out, right? You can't convince yourself which side is Ramika on.
That's exactly what the dilemma was, actually, because here you are actually playing hero for your country, but you become the anti-hero because actually you are going against the guy who is the anti-hero, who's actually is playing the anti-hero, but is actually the hero of the film. So it was very, very confusing. It was a dilemma. It was a gray zone. It was neither black nor white. So you were like, will the sympathies lie with you, or will people hate you because you're actually going after, he was the Robin Hood of the movie, and you're actually going, after his skin, where he meant so much to, all the people around, the Janta, but there you are standing there and trying to do this for your nation. So it was a tough one. That dilemma was there in my mind, that will I be able to deliver that very clearly, with clarity is what was important.
All right. So you mentioned that, there is this tendency, and I think this is not just with women in cinema. I think it's just with people, and it's more of a career thing, right? A lot of people sometimes just think it is, I'll play X character or Y character because it's just a career thing. It's safer for my career. Now, if somebody was to look at your career, and you've taken risks consistently throughout your career when it comes to, okay, I'm going to play this role, I'm going to play this role. Now, if I was to ask you to use, I don't know if this is the right, so why did you not choose to be a careerist in that sense?
What does that mean?
Like, let's say this, right? If you're a poker player, if you would place your bets on the safer option, the safer option would be, right, I don't take that risk, I don't play these characters, I don't do those things that are going to be, in a way, a jhatka to the viewer. Like, the viewers are used to looking at you in a certain way, right? If you, like you said, the viewer actually in a way imbibes your personality. The viewer forgets you're Raveena Tandon. The viewer starts thinking you're Kasturi Dogra, right?
Exactly. So, Kushal, you know what happened with me somewhere in the late 90s, around 2000 is I remember I was shooting in the middle of Mauritius again, wearing a middle skirt, mini skirt with boots and two pigtails, and again, swinging around on some song. And suddenly there was this, I was sitting there in the middle of the square watching everybody, and I was like, oh my God, how long am I keep going to do the same thing over and over again? I was getting bored with myself. I was like, okay, how am I, and when am I going to evolve? When am I going to know how much I can challenge myself or push myself beyond the thing to see, as an actor, what can I do and what can I not do, and what is going to excite me more? And that's the time when I actually started making the conscious change. And that first thing started with a film called Shul. Immediately I did Daman, then I did Ghulam-e-Mustafa, then I did Aks, and then it just kind of just happened to me. Then I did Satta, and it was very, very gratifying for me, because everything that I did, was accepted, was being appreciated, and I was like, yes, okay, I can do it. You are right. Many actors actually are very comfortable playing themselves in every movie, because the safest thing for them to do, to be successful playing that same, Sher ki ladki, vivacious, bubbly, kind of thing. I could have remained Sher ki ladki all my life. But for me to get to move beyond that and to do something was very important for me. I was honestly not doing it for anything else. But I was like, to a certain extent, if I am only getting bored seeing myself in the same role again and again, obviously I'm dishing out the same stuff to even my audiences, or people who are my well-wishers, who are coming there to see what I'm doing. Yes, they like me in a certain avatar. I will not discontinue doing that. I will continue doing that as well. So if I had a Dule Raja releasing in one theatre, I had a Shul running parallelly in another theatre. If I had a Bade Miyan Chote Miyan running, I had an Aks running parallelly in another theatre. So it was that entire thing of, wanting to do variety even for my satisfaction, as well as the fact to check whether, to see how I can go beyond just being very comfortable in my own skin. And of course, then trying to bring something new every time that I did do a role to my audiences as well.
So would you consider the option that you have taken to be maybe the tougher one then?
Of course, it is much tougher. I mean, if you know you're excelling in something, you just continue doing that, and that might just work for you constantly. But there are times when some things, people pre-warn you. Like, for example, when I was doing Daman, there were so many who said, "Oh my God, at such a young age, you're already playing a mother-in-law to Shan and to Ramika Sen. How can you do such an elderly role already now?" I said, "But I mean, that's the character, that's her life story. So this is what something that I would want to do." But they were like, audiences will not accept you then. But nothing like that happened. I continued doing commercial cinema and fun cinema as well. I enjoyed doing comedies as well.
Yeah. So now that's a good point. Do you think the kind of risks you take as an artist, where you jump from one character to the other, do you think there is more acceptance for that kind of risk taking from a consumer point of view in today's India vis-a-vis before? Or it's just that some people are going to get away with it no matter which era they're going to be in?
I think it's well, see, I started doing this from the year 2000, so I really cannot say how much has improved since then to now. Nearly 2 decades of doing this, but I think it also depends on your own convictions. If you believe in something, and that's when you'll have probably the ability to make another person, to make your audiences believe in that as well. So you've got to believe or have faith in that first. So if I believe in a certain character, is only when I'll be able to convince my audience of that character. So whether it's then, now, or the new India, I think now, in fact, people have started experimenting a lot more, much earlier in their careers than what we used to do then. I mean, if you see Alia's 5th film, she did a highway, which was so amazingly well done for a child who's just doing her 5th film. We evolved much, much later in our 25th film or something. So I think it just kind of jumps by leaps and bounds generation-wise.
So again, would you say that Indian cinema today, in that sense, has become more open in a way that, at least from where I look at it, a lot of times when I used to look at Indian cinema, it was very much, I think, male-centric. Everything was male-centric, as in even the portrayal of the woman in the movie in a very weird way used to be very male-centric. And in that sense, we are improving. In your personal experience, now I did go through some studies. It was fascinating. Actually, they do studies, they do content analysis, which was like a complete mind-blowing experience for me as I was preparing, because I have one rule: if I'm talking to someone, I like to prepare properly. And I just read this recent study, and it was like 700 movies. They did a content analysis, they did a speech analysis of 700 movies, and they showed how the trend is changing. More and more male dominated roles are reducing, female dominated, and not just as actors, in direction and in other roles. But in your personal experience, do you think the male dominance has reduced too?
Well, I don't think that the male dominance has reduced, has gone down to a certain extent. Films will always be made hero-centric. Also, will always continue being made male dominated film or action-oriented film, which is male dominated. That all will also happen. But the opportunities that women have been given in characters and roles has risen. So if this was male dominated here already before, it doesn't mean this has come down. I believe this has risen up. That's where the balance has happened right now, which I think is just completely, just totally great.
But it sounds good, because at least my image of being a passive cinema consumer, and full disclosure, I don't watch many movies, because it's just something that I watch very few ones. I'm a philosophy guy, so either I've watched a lot of your movies, to be very honest, is because there was this phase of comedy in India, and we would see a lot of comedy happening, and so I did go through that phase, but in my view, I did feel a lot of times as a consumer, I would be like, there's just too much of male dominance in Indian cinema. And when I see a lot of changes in Indian cinema from where I sit, it's actually good. It's very interesting. Like I saw Priyanka Chopra's movie Barfi once, and I was very happy to see that kind of a movie. It was such a different movie, and she did a fantastic job there too. I have to ask you this, because I heard you speak about it fleetingly. I don't remember the exact name of the channel where you were on YouTube, but you did mention that you like to call the industry Hindi cinema or Indian cinema, whatever terminology we use here, and you don't prefer to use the terminology of Bollywood. Now, I have to say that made me so happy as an individual. I was like, finally, I hear from someone who does not like the terminology Bollywood, because Bollywood sounds like a cheap copy of Hollywood. Is like हमने Hollywood लिया और उधर गए हमने Xerox copy मार लिया. So can you explain why?
And I really don't know why the media coined the word for such a long time, and now it's become like almost a global world. Even internationally, they call us Bollywood. I mean, it's actually pretty demeaning. meaning. Hollywood has a reason that the hills, that is the area is called Hollywood, and hence the industry was there, so it was Hollywood. We don't have in Bombay, we don't have hills which are called balls that you have Bollywood all around. So what are we? I can't understand that really. So why this cheap, interpretation of every, even our cinema, our different, whether it is the Kannada industry, or it is the Tamil industry, or it is the, Assamese industry. They've given a name for everything. The Sollywood, Collywood, Lollywood, Pollywood, Nollywood, Rollywood. It's disgusting. I believe these kind of words are coined by those kind of media people who've got little blank spaces instead of brains. So
yeah. So do you think it is also an effect sometimes of I don't know how to say, there are people whose minds are in New York but they are accidentally living in Bombay?
God alone knows, probably, but I really don't know how this word got coined. But it's so good to hear, because this is something I've been saying in my interviews for such a long time. And then when we were on stage and we were at a press conference with KGF, and Yash turned around and told in a press conference, we are sick of these words, all these woods. We want all these woods to vanish and all of us to be one united, strong.
So if I was to ask you, in terms of your career, what was the biggest difference that you've experienced working in what we call Hindi language cinema in comparison to, I would not say Kannada or Tamil, I would say in Southern Indian cinema, and let's say what is called now Hindi cinema today? What are the differences?
Well, earlier in the 90s, when I would do Tamil films, or I would do Kannada films, or I would do Telugu films, I would really enjoy going there, because I felt for them always content was was very, very important. Content was always king for them. It was not trying to do gimmickry or, trying to be too westernized. I think for them it was their stories and their entire screenplays used to be so strongly based according to their local traditions, their rituals, their cultural, so deeply embedded with their roots, that they used to make the connect with the audience so immediately. And their films used to be super duper hits, while here in Mumbai, we'd all be trying to struggle to get a movie to work and wonder, oh, what is the magic formula? But I think it was so simple, because whether I did the Tamil cinema or I did Telugu cinema, their stories were so, around the entire ethos of their culture, and people, their mass audiences would so easily identify and connect that it would just work. Their stories would just work. And that's where I used to find the difference. And I used to say it also, if you see any of my old interviews, even in the 90s, I've been saying this for a very long time.
Yeah, but no pushback from your fellow brethren and sisters in Hindi cinema, that don't you think in a way you're saying that southern cinema folks are more rooted in that sense, right?
No, not at all. Not rooted. And I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about the kind of the what happens is, when you're making a film in Mumbai, you start thinking completely like a Mumbaiker. Every city, every the heartland has different emotions, probably not syncing with what we think and eat and breathe in Mumbai. So it's somewhere to be little more connected, to understand what the audiences are looking for.
So I guess it's a marketing decision. So I just think that's something I found very interesting in KGF 2 is, again, not seen many Southern Indian movies. I've seen Bahubali, I've seen KGF 1 and 2. Now, this is again, I'm giving you a consumer's perspective who sees just sitting in a cinema or, watching it on OTT. They do celebrate their culture with far more ease and far more comfort vis-a-vis at times, let's say, I'm not saying all of Hindi cinema, but there is definitely, in my eyes, a section of Hindi cinema that sometimes I feel very apologetic. It's like they have to caveat it around. It's like, I'll give you an example. The scene where, the Kali Ma ka scene in KGF 2, and, it's a grand celebration of Kali Ma, and they're going there and they're celebrating on the particular day. The grand way that they show that, and it's so unabashed, and they don't care. And they just do it. And
I think that's also very important, that they really don't care. They believe in their cinema and they believe what they are doing. They believe in what they're doing. Unfortunately, what also happens with a lot of our here in Mumbai, the filmmakers, there's this certain very elite, very elitist kind of this critics section which will say, oh my God, that is so regressive and that is so not happening. That's not so politically correct, and that's not, it is so, it's not woke. It's not woke at all. And but that sometimes does not work with the audience. You have to also connect. Yes, you should make progressive films, and yes, you should definitely make cinema which is politically correct and inclusive. There's no two ways about it. But do not forget your culture. You can't suddenly become Americanized. That is where I feel that it becomes a little on a back foot, where they get stuck in a thing is trying to please the critics as well and trying to please the audience as well. Where I think that I think that's where they get kind of stuck in the middle, where they're trying to please this class also and that class also. I mean, I remember Prashant was asked a question in a press conference that very clearly he was asked a question that, Prashant, so what do you think about KGF 2? Is your film made for the classes, or is it only the masses that you cater to? And he didn't even take a second's pause. He said, I make my films for the masses. He didn't even try to pretend to be, oh no, it's, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. Kuch nahi. I'm making my film for the masses. He was very clear. And she was like, oh, okay. This was in a press conference in Delhi, I think. And I just looked at him and I was like, I mean, that is like exactly what he said. It was very unabashedly that he just said it. And I was like, wow, so respect. Yeah.
Yeah. And in a way, it's very good. And it's sad that at times, which is why I in a major way got turned off by Hindi cinema too, is the reason is that, if I want to see, and I say this with full responsibility, if I want to see a wannabe, I'll go and see an original person, right? You're just aping the American, right? At times, I mean, तो मैं American को ही जाके देख लूंगा ना, वो तो original piece है. So why would I want to see a cheap imitation? Like at times when you see unabashed Indianness. Now, in fact, that is something you spoke about, progressivism, right? Yeah, we should be progressive. Now, aren't the characters that you've played in KGF 2 strong woman, gets what she wants, she will do it her way, or in a way, the cop in Kasturi Dogra, she has, I remember, how she struggles as a mother when her daughter is going through troubles, and, there is a problem with the daughter and the mother communication too. These are real issues. Now, why would an Indian not connect to that? Because those are real issues that many mothers in India must be facing. But, हम लोग कोई एक imaginary elite, एक पता नहीं कोई 100 माले की बिल्डिंग में रहने वाले बंदे के बारे में एक issue बना लें and उसके बाद करें. So I actually, again, this is my consumer's perspective. I'm not a film critic or anything. I just think when I watch it, I feel, यार हाँ ये तो अपने बंदे हैं, इनके बारे में हाँ हमें समझ पड़ रहा है. I hope you get what I'm saying.
It's important for the audiences to identify. It's when the audience is watching with you, they have to identify with the issues. You're right to a certain extent what you're dealing with, but I think this used to happen more so in the 80s, and then again 90s saw this visible good change that was happening towards even in Hindi cinema, and again good content started coming in, and which now again I feel there is some great content that is happening. So it's I think in a way all of it is. I mean, you see whether you see Gangubai right now or to a certain extent you see some of the new films that have released. So they've had great content. Yeah. So people are then definitely will head back to the theaters. But 80s was a time where I remember some of the makers would actually do shot to shot copies, watch it on a DVD and shoot the same thing the next day. Like actually remake the Hollywood films that were coming out in those 80s. That was, I think, a sad time. But I think 90s saw good visible change where content again started coming in. Content was king. And now it's there to rule, which again I'm very, very proud of actually.
90s was Mohara, right? When you played that journalist, if I remember, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Damini was also in the 90s, Meenakshi Seshadri.
Yes, Damini was also the 90s, yes.
Yeah, see, these movies stick out because they are still there. Like, I can't tell you a movie from today. I just can't. I don't remember things. I remember from my college days.
Okay, watch Aranyak then.
Oh, I have that one. I saw. I'll not lie. In fact, I had tweeted about it too. I did not tag you because I usually don't tag people a lot, but I did tweet about it. I loved it. I could totally relate to it because, again, like, I'm a very desi guy, so I could relate to it. I was like, यार ये हाँ अपनी बातें हो रही हैं, ये अपने लोगों की बातें हो रही हैं. Now, I don't like to take names about other things that I don't relate to, is because, people have worked hard in creating that too. That's why I don't do it for any other reason, because I carry no ill will. But I'm conscious of your time too. So before we wrap things up, you know, I have a certain section of young women, and now usually people say YouTube is a cesspool of men. Only men watch YouTube. It's like a 92%, 93% male audience. Yeah. The YouTube analytics are weird. But in my channel, to my utter shock, it was like 85% men and 15% are women. So now this is my question, because this podcast is titled and is about women in Indian cinema. So let's say, there are young girls watching this and they might not get the opportunity to ask you this question. So on their behalf, I'm asking you this. If they want to pursue a career, getting inspired by you, looking at you, so what would, and this is not a cliched question. I genuinely mean this, because I get emails later on by, the listeners who will be like, "Aapne ye pucha kyun nahi?" So मैं पूछ रहा हूँ. So tell me, what would your message to them would be?
It's very short and sweet. If you're hardworking, you're dedicated, you're sincere, you are talented, nothing on this planet can stop you. Yes, and a little bit of luck, but I believe in any profession. If you have the will, you believe in yourself, have faith, and you're hardworking. See, hard work ultimately pays off. Professionalism pays off. There is nothing. It's then just a matter of time. अपना time आएगा वाली बात है. But मेहनत करते जाओ, and I believe that ultimately definitely pays off.
Well, I hope everybody keeps a close tab on these things that you've said, and they try their best, because for me, as far as I'm concerned, it's a tough industry. People don't realize it. Again, I was looking at the data.
It is a lot of hard work. It's not glamour and fun and games at all.
Yeah. I mean, I have heard stories of, actors, artists, directors working odd hours, working double shifts, and everybody involved when the movie is goes on. But again, for the consumer, it's just, what comes out finally in a 3-hour set. So yeah, I'm actually...
Kushal, when I was shooting, I'll tell you that everyone thinks it's all glamour and glitz, but I was shooting for a film called Ux. I was doing the songs. Very, very good album of Ux. It was Anu Malik Ji's music. The songs were Ye Raat, that Kodiali Chipkali Raat, and there was Aja Gufaon Mein Aa. There was another song, Rabba Rabba. These were all 3 songs back to back. And there was another one, Raat Aati Hai, sung by Shubha Muddal. So there were 4 songs. In those days, I was shooting for Ux from 7 in the evening to 5 in the morning. Okay. Then from 5 in the morning, I would go back to my makeup room. I would go back home at 5 in the morning, take a quick shower, come back onto the set again. All these 3 sets of mine for 3 different movies were in one same studio in Filmistan. I would come back to my shoot. I would 7:30 in the morning, I would start doing makeup for another film of mine that I was doing a song for called Ghat. That was a Taboo and a Manoj Bajpayee film. I was doing a song for them, just a song for them. I would shoot for them till 2 o'clock, from 7:30 to 2 in the afternoon. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd go back to my makeup room. changed into my third outfit for the third film that I was shooting for, from 2 in the afternoon to 7 in the evening. And then 7 in the evening, I used to join the unit of Aks again to shoot for the songs of Aks till 5 in the morning again. I did this continuously for 5 days with just getting half an hour of sleep or an hour of sleep in the middle. And I would sleep with my full costume on, with full jewelry, and it were all 3 different outfits. Ye Raat was all Western wear, and Ghat was heavy, ethnic wear, a lot heavy ghagra cholis with lots of jewelry and Indian hairstyles. And the third shoot was with Chichi, with Govinda, for a film called Akhiyon Se Goli Mare. It was an engagement kind of song. So that was lighter, but that was also a ghagra choli, but lighter. So this was like continuous. So 7 to 5 in the morning, then 7 to 2 in the afternoon, then 2 to 7 in the evening again. So it was like a non-stop. So yes, it is a lot of hard work.
I could not have ended today's podcast on a better note. I think this is the perfect way to end the podcast, so that, a lot of times, again, I say this with full sincerity, we don't realize the kind of hard work you guys have to put in. And I'm glad that you shared this, experience of yours. I hope, everybody who listens to this gets inspired by it. But before we wrap things up, Raveena, thanks a lot for coming on my podcast. I know my mom's going to be super happy that this has happened.
So sweet. Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll wrap today's discussion up. If you've not seen KGF 2, go to the cinema and watch it. Go on Netflix, watch Aranyak, watch all the movies that you like. Support Indian cinema, support women in Indian cinema. It's very important that we do that. And support the Cārvāka podcast too, guys. I try to bring the best out of my guests as much as possible, and I try to bring in different kinds of conversations. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.